On a faraway planet under two suns, there was a colony of strange beings. They lived together in tall stone houses. They traded food and tools. They laughed and they worked. But there was one they never allowed to join them. Her name was not spoken often, for to them she was only known as the smelly one. Wherever she walked, the air carried a heavy odor, so strong that people turned their faces and held their breath. Children laughed at her, adults cursed her, and no one wanted her near their homes. She lived alone on the edge of the colony, in a broken hut made of metal scraps. Every day she watched the others from far away, wishing she could sit with them, talk with them, share food and stories. But when she came close, the crowd always scattered. Mothers pulled their children away. Fathers shouted at her to leave. She never fought back. She only lowered her head and walked into the shadows. They believed she was cursed. They whispered that her smell was not natural, that it was a punishment from the old gods. Some said her smell brought sickness. Others claimed it brought death. No one wanted to test if the stories were true. So they pushed her out. Alone, forgotten, but inside her heart, she was not weak. At night when the colony lights went dark, she sat under the two moons and dreamed. She dreamed of leaving the planet, of flying away among the stars. She dreamed of finding someone, anyone, who would not run away. And in her dreams, she was not the cursed one. She was free. Still, the days were long and cruel. She ate what she could find, drank from dirty streams, and wrapped herself in torn cloth to stay warm. Her smell never left her. It followed her like a shadow. Sometimes she cried, not because of the smell itself, but because it was the reason no one ever touched her hand. No one ever hugged her. No one ever said her name with kindness, yet she carried a secret even she did not fully understand. When she walked too close to the dark forests outside the colony, strange glowing creatures kept their distance. Sharp-fanged beasts that hunted others would not come near her. Birds that screamed in the night stayed silent when she passed. She thought it was only luck, but deep inside something greater was hidden. The colony never noticed. To them, she was only the cursed girl. They never saw how the beast stopped at the edge of her path, never saw how danger stepped back whenever she was near. They were too busy covering their noses and throwing stones, but fate was changing. One evening, as the suns began to set and the sky turned purple, a strange light appeared above the valley. It was not a star, it was moving, growing larger, brighter. The people ran to the open fields, pointing at the sky. The girl watched too, her heart beating fast. The light roared, fire trailing behind it. And soon it landed on the far side of the colony, shaking the ground. The people whispered in fear. Some thought it was a weapon. Others thought it was a sign from the gods. But the girl felt something different. She did not know why, but she felt that whatever had arrived was meant for her. Her smell still clung to her. The people still hated her. But for the first time in her lonely life, she felt hope. Hope that someone new had come, someone who might not turn away. That night, as the colony returned to their homes, she stayed awake. Watching the smoke rise from the crash site, she felt the wind shift, carrying the scent of metal and fire. She whispered to herself, "Maybe tomorrow will be different." Her voice was soft, but the stars above seemed to listen, and far away. In the shadows of the valley, something was already moving toward her. She did not know it yet, but her life was about to change forever. The smell that cursed her, the loneliness that followed her, the whispers and the pain. All of it was only the beginning, because soon one man would arrive and he would not turn away. And when he looked at her, he would not see a curse. He would see something the others could not. He would see her. The next morning, the colony was full of noise. People gathered in the square, arguing, pointing at the smoke in the distance. They said it was dangerous. They said it was a curse. They said no one should go near. But curiosity was stronger than fear, and groups of young men walked toward the valley to see what had fallen. The girl watched them from far away, standing at the edge of the crowd. As always, they noticed her smell and told her to leave. She stepped back, silent, but her eyes stayed fixed on the smoke. Hours passed, and the men returned with wide eyes. They spoke of a strange figure, tall and dressed in shining clothes. Not like any alien they had seen before. Not like anyone from their world. He spoke in a language that twisted and bent, but somehow they understood pieces of it. He called himself human, and he came from the stars. The colony was split. Some shouted that he was dangerous, that he must be sent away. Others believed he was powerful, that he could help them. But one thing was certain. No one truly welcomed him. They were too afraid of what they did not understand. The human stood calmly among them, his eyes sharp and curious. He looked at the houses, the people, the sky with its two suns. Everything was new to him, but he did not show fear. He asked for water. He asked for a place to rest. But no one stepped forward. No one offered kindness. The people only whispered behind their hands. Then it happened. The girl walked slowly from her hut at the edge of the colony. The smell around her spread. And as always, the crowd stepped back in disgust. The human noticed this, his head turning toward her. For a long moment he just stared as if he had found something unusual. Where others saw a curse, he saw mystery. The people shouted at him, "Stay away from her. She is cursed. She brings sickness. She brings death." But he did not move back. Instead, he walked toward her, each step firm and steady. The girl's eyes widened, her hands trembled. No one had ever done this before. He stopped in front of her, close enough to smell the stench that made others faint. His face tightened for a second, but he did not cover his nose. Instead, he smiled gently and said in broken words, "You. Alone." The girl lowered her head, ashamed. She wanted to turn away, but her feet would not move. The human reached into a pack on his back and pulled out a silver flask. He opened it and offered her water. Her eyes filled with tears. No one had ever shared with her before. Her hands shook as she accepted it, and for the first time, she drank clean water without fear. The colony murmured, angry and confused. Why does he care for her? Why does he waste his time? He will regret it. But the human ignored them. He touched her shoulder gently and she flinched, unused to kindness. He whispered something soft, words she did not understand, but the tone was enough. It was not hate, it was not fear, it was comfort. Later, as the suns began to fall, the human made a camp near the edge of the colony. He lit a small fire, set his tools, and began to repair a broken machine. The girl sat not far away, too nervous to move closer, but too curious to leave. She watched him work, watched his hands as they moved quickly, shaping metal, joining wires. It was like magic to her, something she had never seen. At one point, he looked at her again, his eyes kind but searching. He pointed at the ground near the fire, inviting her to sit. She hesitated, her body tense, but slowly she moved closer. The fire's warmth touched her skin, and she felt something strange, safe. For years, no place had ever felt safe. But now, sitting near this man from the stars, she felt it. The colony leaders came later, demanding that the human leave at once. They warned him again, pointing at the girl, saying she was a curse. But he only shook his head and replied in simple words, "Not curse, no." He did not explain further, but his voice was strong and his eyes did not waver. The leaders had no choice. They left in anger, but their whispers grew darker. That night, under the light of the two moons, the human sat beside the fire. The girl sat near him, silent, her heart racing. She did not understand why he stayed near her, why he was not afraid. But something inside her whispered that he was different. He saw what no one else saw, and for the first time she believed that maybe, just maybe, her life could change. But deep in the valley beyond the smoke of his fallen ship, shadows began to move. Creatures with glowing eyes stirred, restless, sensing something new. The girl shivered without knowing why. The human glanced at the darkness, his hand resting on a strange weapon at his side. The night was quiet, but danger was closer than anyone thought, and the bond between the girl and the man had only just begun. The night was long and cold, the two moons climbing higher. The human sat by the fire, his eyes sharp as if he was listening to something far away. The girl sat near him, but not too close, her arms wrapped around her knees, afraid her smell might drive him away at last. But he never moved back. He never told her to leave. Instead, he worked on small metal objects, tools from his pack, fixing and shaping them under the soft light. The colony had gone quiet, their houses sealed, their whispers fading into the night, but the girl could still feel their eyes in her mind, still hear their cruel words. Cursed, they had called her. Dangerous, they had warned. Yet here sat a man from the stars, unafraid. It was something she could not understand, but she did not want it to end. Hours passed, the fire grew smaller, and finally the human put down his tools. He looked at her, studying her face with calm curiosity. She lowered her eyes, ashamed of herself, ashamed of the smell that always clung to her. But then, without warning, he reached out his hand. It was the first time in her life anyone had done that. The girl froze, her breath catching. She wanted to move back, to hide, but her body betrayed her. Slowly, carefully, she placed her hand in his. His skin was warm, his grip strong, yet gentle. For a moment, the world seemed to stop. The smell that chased everyone away did not matter. The colony's hatred did not matter. All that mattered was the strange feeling of touch. She stared at their joined hands, her eyes wide. Tears burned behind her eyes, not from pain, but from something she had never felt before. Belonging. The human smiled, nodding as if to say, "See, you are not poison. You are not curse." And in that single touch, her heart opened to a new hope. But the fire crackled, and beyond the valley, something stirred. The night was not safe. Not tonight. The human's head turned sharply, his ears catching a sound she could not hear. He let go of her hand, rising to his feet. The girl felt sudden cold without his touch, but she followed his gaze. At the edge of the trees, two glowing eyes blinked, watching them. Her heart raced, her skin shivered. She knew those eyes. They belonged to a predator, one of the shadow beasts that haunted the land. The colony feared them, and rightly so, for they hunted in packs and killed without mercy. The girl wanted to run, but she froze. The beast stepped forward, its claws scratching the earth, its growl echoing in the silence. But then something strange happened. As the beast came closer, it slowed, its growl weakened, its body hesitated. The smell, the curse that the colony hated, reached the beast too, but instead of charging, it backed away. Its glowing eyes blinked once more, then it melted back into the forest gone. The human lowered his weapon but did not relax. He looked at the girl, his face unreadable. She knew what he had seen. She knew he must have noticed. The smell that pushed away people also pushed away the monsters. She dropped her head, ashamed again, whispering, "See, I am curse." But he shook his head firmly. "No curse," he said, his voice quiet but strong. "Shield." The word confused her, but deep inside it touched something. Could it be true? Could the thing that ruined her life also be the thing that kept her alive? She did not know, but he believed it, and his belief was enough to make her wonder. The human sat again, his firelight reflecting in his eyes. He reached once more for her hand, and this time she did not hesitate. She let him hold it, and the warmth returned. Her heart still trembled, but it was no longer from fear. It was from the new feeling growing inside her, a bond she had never known. The night passed, slowly, and when dawn came, the colony woke to find the human and the cursed girl still sitting together. Whispers spread again, louder this time, sharper. They said he was foolish. They said he would soon be poisoned. But they did not see the truth. They did not see the beast that had turned away. They did not see the shield she carried within her. The human stood, his hand still holding hers. The colony gasped. Some shouted in anger, some in fear, but he did not let go. He looked at them all and spoke in simple words. "She is not curse. She is strong. She is needed." The leaders grew angry, their faces dark with rage. They warned him again to stay away from her, but he only tightened his grip, refusing to obey. The girl felt his strength flow into her. For the first time, someone chose her. For the first time, she was not alone, yet far away, in the deep forests, The shadow beasts gathered, their numbers growing, their growls shaking the trees. They had felt her presence, they had sensed the shield breaking. Soon they would come again, not one, but many. The colony had no idea what was waiting for them, and only the human and the girl would be ready. The human's camp grew larger each day. He built small shelters with his tools, strange walls of metal that hummed with quiet power. The girl watched him work from a distance, her heart always torn between fear and wonder. She had never seen anyone like him, never seen hands move with such skill. The colony only whispered in anger, but she stayed near, drawn to the one person who did not turn away. One evening, as the two suns dipped behind the hills, the human motioned for her to follow. She hesitated, her body tense, but his eyes were calm. He led her into one of the metal shelters, its walls shining like smooth stone. Inside, she saw a machine she could not understand, pipes and buttons glowing faint blue. The human pressed something, and then she heard it, the sound of rushing water. Her eyes widened in shock. Clear water poured from a silver pipe, falling like soft rain into a basin below. She had seen streams, she had seen muddy rivers, but never water so pure, never water controlled by human hands. The smell around her clung heavy, as always, and she looked at him with confusion. Why show her this? Why now? The human pointed at the water, then pointed at her. She stepped back quickly, shaking her head. No one had ever spoken of cleansing her. No one had cared enough. She feared it. She feared what he would see when the layers of dirt and time washed away, but his face showed no anger, no disgust, only patience. He spoke softly, repeating one word she understood. Clean. The girl trembled, her hands tight around her torn clothes. Still, something inside her whispered that this was her chance. For the first time, she stepped forward, her feet heavy with doubt. Human turned the water again, and she reached out her hand. The drops touched her skin, cold at first, then warm. She gasped, her breath sharp, but she did not pull away. Slowly, the human guided her closer. The water poured over her arms, her face, her tangled hair. She closed her eyes, letting the flow cover her, and as it did, the air began to change. The thick smell that had chased everyone away started to fade. The dirt that had hidden her skin washed down into the basin. For the first time in her life, she felt light, as if the weight of years was being carried away. The human stood nearby, watching silently. He did not laugh. He did not mock her. He only handed her a bar of something smooth and white. She rubbed it against her skin as he showed her, and the water foamed, cleansing deeper than she thought possible. She wanted to cry, but the water hid her tears. When at last the water stopped, she stepped back, breathing fast. Her body felt strange, light, almost new. But something else had changed too. Her skin was glowing faintly under the firelight, soft patterns shining like tiny stars. She gasped. Staring at herself, the human nodded slowly, as if this was what he had been waiting for. She whispered, her voice shaking, "What? What is this?" He touched his chest, then pointed at her, speaking carefully. "Power. Hidden. Inside you." She did not understand everything, but she felt the truth in his words. The smell had not been a curse. It had been a shield, a mask hiding what she truly carried within. Memories rushed through her mind. The beasts that never attacked, the hunters that always turned away. It was not luck. It was not chance. It was her. It had always been her. She was the reason the predators stopped, the reason danger pulled back, and now, with her shield washed away, her true nature was awakening. The human stepped closer, offering her a clean cloth to wrap around herself. For the first time, she did not feel dirty. She did not feel cursed. She felt alive. He looked into her eyes and spoke again. Not curse, gift. Her hands shook as she held the cloth tight. Could she believe it? Could the thing that had ruined her life actually be the thing that made her special? Outside, the colony stirred uneasily. They had seen the water pouring from the strange shelter. They had seen the girl enter, and whispers grew darker. They feared what the human was doing, feared the change they did not understand. but none of them saw what truly happened inside. None of them saw the glow. That night the girl sat by the fire once more, her skin still faintly shining, her smell almost gone. She looked at the human, and for the first time she smiled. It was small, shy, but real. He returned the smile, knowing the journey was only beginning. Yet in the forest, the beasts gathered again. This time they did not run from her scent. They sniffed the air, confused, angry. Their shield was gone, and now they hungered. The colony slept, unaware of the storm approaching. But the human knew, his hand resting on his weapon, his eyes on the horizon. The girl was no longer cursed, but the danger was greater than ever. The suns rose slowly, painting the sky in red and gold. The colony woke to another day of fear and suspicion. But something was different now, something they could not explain. The cursed girl no longer carried the same heavy smell. The air around her was lighter, and though whispers still followed her, they sounded less certain. She walked through the colony with her head lowered. Eyes followed her, lips curled in disgust. Yet some stared longer than before. They noticed her skin glowing. Faintly like dusted stars beneath her flesh, they saw a change but did not understand it. To them she was still danger, but now she was also mystery. The human stayed by her side. He spoke little, but his presence was enough to silence some of the cruelest voices. He worked with his tools, repairing machines, scanning the land with strange devices, and always his eyes returned to her as if waiting for something to happen. She did not know what he expected, but she felt it too. Something was building inside her, a storm she could not name. That evening the shadows lengthened and the first beast returned. It crept from the forest, its eyes glowing, its body thick with muscle and claws. The colony panicked, running into their homes, slamming their doors shut. The girl stood frozen, in the open space, her heart pounding. Before, her smell had pushed such creatures back, but now it was gone. Would the beast strike? Would it tear her apart? The human stepped forward, weapon in hand. He fired a burst of light from the strange tool. The beast growled and backed away, but it did not run. It circled, hungry, testing them. Then another beast appeared, then another. The colony screamed from their windows, their fear filling the air. The girl felt her chest tighten, her legs weak. She wanted to run, but she could not. And then it happened. A heat spread through her body, rising from her chest to her arms to her hands. Her glowing skin flared brighter, casting light across the ground. The beasts froze, their growls silenced, their eyes narrowing against the glow. She gasped, looking at her own arms. Her body was alive with energy, lines of light flowing under her skin like rivers. The air around her trembled. The beasts hissed, backing away as if struck by something unseen. The human lowered his weapon, his eyes shining with awe. This was what he had been waiting for. The beasts roared once more, then turned and fled into the forest. The colony was silent, too shocked to speak. The girl fell to her knees, breathing hard, her glowing skin slowly dimming. She looked at her hands in disbelief. "What am I?" she whispered, her voice breaking. The human crouched beside her, touching her shoulder gently. He spoke softly. "Gift. Protector. Not curse." She shook her head, still trembling, but his words wrapped around her like the fires. Warmth. She wanted to believe, she needed to believe, and deep inside, she knew he was right. The colony, however, was not convinced. Their whispers grew again, sharper this time. "She is dangerous. She will bring the beasts. She will kill us all." They had seen her power, but fear blinded them. Instead of seeing salvation, they saw only threat. That night, the human kept watch outside her hut. She sat inside, her body aching from the strange energy. Her mind was a storm. For years she had been hated, rejected, cursed. Now she carried something greater than she could imagine. But she did not know if it would save her or destroy her. The next morning, she woke to silence. The colony avoided her completely now. Not even insults, not even whispers. They shut their doors tighter, as if her presence itself could break them. But the human stayed close, his gaze never leaving her. She asked him once, "Why me?" her voice full of doubt. He answered with one word, "Needed." Later that day, the human took her into his shelter again. He showed her strange lights, moving pictures on a screen. She saw shapes of other worlds, other skies, other creatures. He pointed to them, then to her. She realized he believed she was connected to something larger, something far beyond this colony, far beyond this planet. Her heart raced with fear and wonder. Could she really matter to a universe that had always ignored her? Could she really be more than the cursed girl? The human believed it, and that belief began to shape her own. That night, as the moons rose, she stood outside. The air was quiet, but she felt the forest alive with hidden eyes. The beasts were waiting, watching. Her body trembled, but when she closed her eyes, she felt the warmth again. The glow deep inside her, like a heartbeat stronger than fear. This was her awakening. The girl who had once been cursed was no longer only a victim. She was something else now, something new, and the universe itself seemed to lean closer, watching her. The night was heavy, the air thick with silence. The colony slept inside their stone houses, doors sealed, fires dim. But in the forest beyond, the beasts moved. Their glowing eyes lit the darkness like scattered stars, their growls rumbling low. They had waited for this moment. They had tasted her change. The shield of her smell was gone, and hunger drove them forward. The girl stood near the human's fire, her arms wrapped around herself. She felt the weight of unseen eyes watching, hundreds of them. Her skin tingled, the glow inside her stirring like a storm. The human was awake, too, his weapon close, his face set and calm. He knew what was coming, though the colony still slept in ignorance. Then the sound came. A howl, long and deep, shaking the trees. The ground trembled under many heavy steps. The girl gasped, her heart racing. "They are coming," she whispered, her voice breaking. The human only nodded, his eyes locked on the shadows. The first beast appeared at the edge of the forest, larger than the others. Its jaws dripped with dark saliva, its claws digging into the dirt. Behind it, more poured out, shapes moving like a black wave. The colony woke to screams, children crying, doors slamming shut. Fear filled the air as the beasts charged forward. The human raised his weapon, firing bursts of light. Each shot cut through the dark, striking beasts and sending them rolling back. But more replaced them, climbing over their fallen, relentless. The girl stood frozen, her legs weak, her chest tight. She had power, she had seen it. But could she use it again? A beast broke through, leaping at the human. He rolled aside, striking. It with a blade of light, the creature screamed, smoke rising from its wound. But another came, and another. He could not hold them all. The girl screamed, her voice sharp in the night, her skin flared with sudden light. The beasts stopped mid-charge, their glowing eyes narrowing. She raised her hands, trembling. The glow spread brighter, a wave of energy pulsing from her chest. The beasts growled, clawing at the ground, but they could not move closer. They were held back by something unseen, something deep inside her. Her whole body shook, the light nearly blinding. The human turned to her, his voice steady. "Yes, hold it, hold it." But the power was heavy. Her knees buckled, her breath came short. It felt as if fire was burning through her veins. She screamed again, tears falling. "I cannot, it's too much." The human rushed to her side, holding her steady. "You can, you are stronger than curse, stronger than fear." The beasts roared louder, circling, their hunger fighting against their terror. Some dared to step forward, only to be thrown back by the wave of light. The colony watched from their windows, eyes wide, mouths open. For the first time, they saw the truth. The cursed girl was saving them, but the leader of the beasts was different. It was larger, darker, with horns rising from its skull. It stepped forward slowly, ignoring the light. Its growl was like thunder, shaking the ground. The girl gasped, her body weakening. The human lifted his weapon and fired, but the beast only roared louder. The wave of energy faltered, her glow dimming. The monster took another step, closer and closer. The human shouted her name, Though she had never told it to him, it was the name she had buried long ago, the name she thought forgotten. Her heart cracked, her eyes widened, and in that moment something deeper awoke inside her. The glow burst from her again, brighter, stronger. It spread like a storm, a ring of light sweeping across the ground. The beasts screamed, their bodies twisting. Some fell back into the forest, others crumbled into ash. Even the great horned one staggered, its roar breaking into a cry. The light wrapped around it, forcing it down. The girl stood tall, her hair glowing like fire, her eyes filled with power. She was no longer the cursed outcast. She was something more. The beasts broke, fleeing into the night. There, howls fading into the distance, the ground was littered with smoke and silence. The colony stepped out slowly, their fear mixing with awe. They looked at her not with hate but with trembling respect. For the first time they saw her not as danger, but as protector. The girl fell to her knees, her body weak, the glow fading. The human caught her before she hit the ground. He held her close, whispering softly, "You did it. You saved them." Her tears fell, her voice broken. "They hate me. They will always hate me." But he shook his head, his eyes steady. "No, they will learn. They must learn. You are not curse, you are hope." Behind them, the colony leaders gathered, their faces pale. They could not deny what they had seen. They could not deny the truth. The girl they had cast out, the girl they had cursed, had saved them all. Yet far away in the darkest part of the forest, the horned beast rose again. It limped, its body burned, but its eyes still glowed with rage. It lifted its head and howled, calling to something deeper, something greater. The night shook. The stars themselves seemed to shiver. The attack was over, but the war had only begun. The colony stood in silence, the smoke of battle still drifting through the air. The beasts were gone, their growls fading into the deep forest. But no one cheered, no one celebrated. They only stared at the girl, the outcast who had saved them. Her body weak, her glow fading, yet her presence stronger than ever. The human helped her stand, his arm steady around her shoulders. She leaned against him, her breaths shallow, her eyes heavy. But she was alive, and the people could not deny what they had seen. For years they had cursed her, hated her, avoided her smell. Now they saw the truth, the very thing they feared had protected them. The colony leader stepped forward, his face pale. He tried to speak, but his voice shook. You are dangerous," he said. "But you saved us." The people murmured behind him, confused, torn between fear and awe. They had always needed someone to blame, but now the one they hated was their savior. The girl lowered her head, tears in her eyes. She did not want their praise, she did not want their words, she only wanted peace, to finally belong. The human spoke instead, his voice firm. "She is not curse, she is shield, protector." He pointed at the colony, then at the forest. "You live because of her." The leader had no answer. The people whispered again, but softer this time. For the first time there was no laughter, no insult, only silence, heavy with guilt and wonder. That night, the girl sat by the fire again. The human worked on his machines, fixing the weapon that had saved them. She watched him quietly, her heart heavy. She had shown her power, but she knew it was only the beginning. The beasts would return, stronger, hungrier, led by the horned, one that still lived. She shivered, her hand tightening around the cloth he had given her. The human noticed, his eyes steady on hers. He spoke softly. "Not end, only start." She nodded slowly, understanding. Her life as the cursed girl was over. But a new life had begun, a life where she was no longer hidden, no longer powerless. A life where she would fight not just for herself but for all. Later that night, he showed her the stars. He pointed to the sky, to patterns of light far away. "Home," he whispered, pointing at one bright star. She gasped, her eyes wide. Another world. Another place where people like him lived. Her heart beat faster, wondering if she could ever see it, if she could ever belong beyond the walls of this colony. But then his face grew serious. He tapped. The glowing screen of his device, she saw maps, signals, strange moving shapes. He explained in broken words. The beasts. Not only here, more, everywhere. Her chest tightened, fear rushing back. If the beasts were everywhere, then her power was not only a gift for the colony, it was a gift for the universe. The revelation struck her like lightning. She was not cursed by chance, she was not an accident, she was born for a reason. Her smell, her glow, her shield. It was not punishment, it was preparation. The human seemed to know this already. He looked at her with respect, not pity. You, chosen, he said, his hand resting gently on hers. She trembled, her eyes filling with tears, but this time they were tears of hope. The colony leaders came again at dawn. They bowed their heads, not fully, but enough to show they had changed. We were wrong, they admitted. We did not see. The girl listened, but her heart was far away now. She was no longer chained to their hatred. Her path was larger, reaching beyond their walls. She forgave them silently, but she did not forget. The human prepared his ship, repairing what he could from the crash. He invited her inside, showing her more wonders. She touched the metal walls, the glowing panels, the seats shaped for travel. Among stars, it felt like a dream, yet real. He looked at her and said one word, together. Her heart answered before her voice did. Yes. But deep in the forest, the horned beast raised its head once more, its body scarred, its growl filled with rage. It had felt her power, and it knew she was the key. It howled, calling to something greater. And from beyond the stars, something answered. The war was coming. Larger than the colony. Larger than the planet itself. The girl stood at the edge of the valley, the human at her side. The two suns rose again, painting the sky with light. She breathed deep, no longer hiding, no longer cursed. Her glow returned, faint but steady. She whispered softly, I will not run anymore. And the human nodded, his hand resting on his weapon, for together they were more than outcast and stranger. Together they were the beginning of something greater. The cursed girl was gone. The protector had awakened, and the universe was waiting.